Don't do it. Matter of fact, he approaches it very calmly and very unemotionally and says, I don't really think that's really a good idea. I know it has some merits. God was for it before. Maybe there's some good things involved in it. But I really don't think you ought to do it. But if you disagree with me, that's okay. If you don't believe that, if you want to take their advice, that's okay too. And that's what you're going to read about in Galatians. Except that's not the way it went. Except that's not how Paul sounds. You know what he says about the people who are advocating circumcision? He says, you want to start cutting, you just keep right on cutting. It's in your Bible. If you've got the guts to read it, it's in your Bible. He says they should just go all the way and cut it all off. They should emasculate themselves. That's a good suggestion. It's a very, it's logic. There's no emotion involved there. He wasn't upset. Yeah, he was. You know what you're going to learn about in Galatians? You're going to learn what freedom is about. You are going to learn what freedom is about and what slavery is about. If you've got the guts to look at your Bible and figure out what is slavery and what is freedom, Galatians will teach you. If you really look, you're going to find out what spirituality is and what it means to be religious. That is in your Bible in the book of Galatians. And it is a tough teaching. But you know what? The majority of the world doesn't even know how to define spirituality. Maybe you've never read Galatians. Galatians will teach you what spirituality really means. I love meeting people say, well, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. Good. You've been to Galatians? Do you know how to define what that means? Do you know what it means to follow the Spirit? Do you know? The Spirit is the biggest argument in the book of Galatians. Paul said, if you want to get the Spirit, guess what you've got to do? Trust in Jesus. Here's how not to get it. Follow the law. He said if you want to start with the Spirit and go to this, he has a special name for that. It's really encouraging and upbuilding, and I think we ought to learn it. It's called stupid. Now don't look at me like that. It's in your Bible. Unless you penknife that baby out, it is in your Bible. Paul said, you want to do that? That's just stupid. The chapter he starts out, he says, oh, you stupid Galatians. Yeah, it's in your Bible. Do you have the guts to read that? You know what the book of Galatians will do for you? It'll take away this whole nonsense about being a first century church. I grew up with we're going to be a first century church. We're going to be like the church in the Bible. Well, they didn't read Galatians. They're going to be stupid, according to Paul. It's going to take away this idea that everything was nice. Everything was smooth. They all got along and they all agreed. Do you have the guts to read this? Or do you want to hang into that fantasy that says, oh, it was all so nice. Oh, they always agreed. And oh, they always got along. Well, don't read the book of Galatians if you don't want to read it. That's going to ruin that for you. It will ruin that for you. Unless you just don't want to read it. You can read the good things like Galatians 5:22. We like that one. Right? Maybe we should just read that part. And the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. That's nice. Let's just read that. Well, that's in a context. That's in a context where Paul talking about who is spiritual and who's not. It's for the sake of freedom that Christ has set you free. Don't become a slave again. They're pretty hard words. Someone's going to lead you back into slavery. Jesus died so you could be out of it, and you're going to walk right back into it. And you say, no, wait a minute, Paul, wait a minute. We're just talking about a little bit of foreskin. I mean, wouldn't it be better to get along? I mean, just a little bit of foreskin. That's all he's asking you to do is... I mean, can't you compromise? Can't you just follow a little bit of the law? Can't you just kind of agree to be kind of Jewish? Paul, what's the deal? What's the big deal? It's a choice. They can choose to have that operation or not. Maybe they always wanted to be Jewish. Paul says, you do that, you've fallen from grace. It's in your Bible. Not an option. Paul said, this is not an option. You will either be justified by the law or you will be justified by your faith in Jesus. And if you go this route, you can just count out the justification by grace. You can just count it out. You have fallen from grace. It is in your Bible. Do you have the guts to read that? Can you stand that much controversy? Can you stand that much standing on a principle? Can you stand that when somebody says, no, no, no. We will not go that route. That's what Paul's saying. And that's the book of Galatians. What happens to those churches in Asia Minor? Paul writes, Timothy says, all of Asia has deserted me. This book does not win the day. This book is in your Bible for a reason. Will it convince you? Will you really take a look at that and say, you tell me what it means to be spiritual. You tell me what it means to be a slave. You tell me how to be free and how important freedom is. You tell me how I should stand on this issue about whether I should follow the law or not. Just a little bit of law is okay though, isn't it? A little bit? Just a little bit. Like the first 9 out of the first 10. We believe in the first 9 out of the first 10, don't we? Don't we? Well, if you want to change the Sabbath, we can go for all 10. If you want to change the Sabbath to Sunday, we're for all the Big 10, aren't we? Hard to change Saturday to Sunday, though. Sabbath is still Saturday. So, okay, we'll go for 9. 9 out of the Big 10. We'll teach that, won't we? That's the law, isn't it? And if we keep that, then we'll be okay with